Hello, violinists. Today we are going to be working on page 2 of Essential Elements for Strings, Book 2. Let's go ahead and start, as always, by tuning our instruments, and you're welcome to do that with a tuner if you have one. That's the recommendation. And I'm also going to tune with you along with the tuning tracks. So if you'd like to go along with me, you're welcome to. So here is the tuning track from Essential Elements Interactive.
Here is the tuning note A. Here is the tuning note D. Here is the tuning note G. Here is the tuning note E for violins and basses.
Okay, so we're going to start with number 2 in the book, which is the D major scale. Now, normally when we play a scale in one octave, we repeat the top note, but in this one, it just has the top note written once, and that's because it's intended to be played in a round, and it wouldn't sound very good if you repeated the top note and played it in a round. So let's go ahead and try it together the first time, and then the second time we can go ahead and play it in a round. And we're going to go ahead and use the backing track off of Essential Elements Interactive. Now, when we play the D major scale, we need to be very, very careful about our finger pattern. This is the basic major finger pattern that has a half step between 2 and 3, whole step between 1 and 2. So make sure when you put the second finger on the string that there's a gap between the first finger and the second finger, and then your third finger really should be touching the second finger. What we definitely want to avoid doing is placing the second finger halfway in between the first and third fingers. That's actually not a note. So either way, that's out of tune. So we are playing high second finger on this one. And that's always the case with D major. And notice how they've also indicated in your book where the half steps are. When you're playing half steps between fingers on the violin, those two fingers should be touching or nearly touching. Right at the tips. Okay, let's go ahead and put on the backing track, and we're going to do this twice. First time, let's just play together, and second time, we'll try it in a round. Okay, let's go ahead and try that again. And this time, you go ahead and start with the recording, and then I will echo you in a round. Nicely done. Next, let's go ahead and play number 3, which is called D Major Arpeggio. An arpeggio is basically just a chord that is played with each note played at a separate time. So the D major chord, we call that the D major triad because it has 3 notes in it. It's D, F sharp, A, and D. So it's all notes from the D major scale, but we do skip some notes when we play an arpeggio. So again, D, F sharp, A, and D. And go ahead and read the notes for this one, and we're going to play again along with the backing track. Be very, very careful to listen and make adjustments if you need to get those notes in tune. Now we're going to go ahead and go on to D Major Mania. This one it features all of the notes of the D major scale, but they're not played in order. So if you're working on reading the notes for D major, it might be helpful to start this one by naming the notes first, then maybe playing pizzicato without the bow, and then adding the bow when you're ready. So feel free to take some different steps if you need to as you're practicing this. What I would like you to avoid doing, however, is writing in the letter names. That will become a crutch that it will eventually slow you down. So you don't want to have to write in the letter names. I'd rather have you work on reading the notes and then learning how to associate what you're playing with what it looks like on the page. And then eventually you will skip that step of thinking of the letter. You'll just go from note on the page to note on your instrument, and then it will get much quicker. Okay, so we're going to do D Major Mania. So we'll go ahead and play it with the backing track. Make sure as you're playing that you're trying to keep the bow halfway in between the bridge and the fingerboard, and then make sure that you're always being very careful about setting up your bow hand with a nice thumb bump. So the thumb should be nice and bent, and then the pinky nice and curved and on top. Try and keep the bow nice and relaxed as you're playing. Next, we're going to do the final piece on this page, Theme from London Symphony. This is the longest one on this page. And they're asking us to play it legato. So legato means nice smooth bow strokes, which we actually have been using for everything on this page. So nice and smooth on the bow, using plenty of bow. This one has some slurs in it. So when you see the curvy line connecting two notes, you want to play those both on the same bow stroke. And then remember, it's very important that you're moving your bow in the right direction. So this one is indicated to start with down bow, as most pieces do. Not all, but most pieces start with down bow. So if your first bow goes away from the instrument, then your next bow goes toward the instrument. And we want to get to the point where our bows are all matching. So let's go ahead, and after you've kind of figured out the notes, maybe through pizzicato first and taking a little bit of time to decipher them, when you're ready to play it in tempo, go ahead and play it along with me. Nice job. That is all the pieces on page 2. So happy practicing, and feel free to review this video as many times as you need and play along with me while you do. Good luck.